Oh, hi. Are we on? Hi, folks. Where'd I go? I'm not over there, huh? All right. As usual, I'm assuming we're on the air. All right. My name's Sherry. The show is always on Facebook for all you regular viewers. Thank you very much for joining us again. I hope we have a few new ones. We usually do. You might notice that my partner in crime, Gina, is not sitting with me. In fact, there's not even a chair. Sorry to tell you that um, Gina has contacted the virus and is recovering. In fact, we thought it was pretty much over last week. Then she had a reoccurrence. Just talked to her before the show started. She's doing better, a little better every day, and her plan is to come back to work next Monday. We sure do hope that works out for her and for us. The show isn't the show without Gina. Um, we have a lot of things to discuss, but basically, I want you to know that the Facebook show is presented to you by Foys. We've just talking to Veronica, and we're getting close to 3 years of shows. If you've watched the show, you know, but if it's new to you, welcome. But you can go on Facebook's, I'm sorry, on uh, Foy's website, and every show we've ever done is there. You might want to get yourself a pencil and a paper to write something down on, because if I have the time, I'm going to go through a lot of quick tips on taking care of your pigeons. So you may want to write that down. But if you don't, as I said before, you are certainly welcome to watch it on our website. Uh, we did not have an auction. To be perfectly frank, we haven't had any new birds come in. I'm kind of fussy that way. I want good birds, and unless they are a guaranteed hen and cock and at least good quality, we don't accept them. So um, we we're just out of birds to auction. Uh, if I want to thank Tom Pritchett. Tom sent us two pair of fantails, and we sold them in our last auction. Um, we did it 1 week, one show, one bird, one pair, and the next show another pair. They brought in a total of $800 for the Legacy Fund Trust. If you don't know much about the trust, it's a branch of the NPA, although controlled by the trustees and of the trust. It's called the Legacy Fund Trust. What we do is raise money in various ways, the most important being the auctions, and we invest that money. It's never ever spent. Only the earned income from those investments are used. And we're pretty proud of the fact that even through this pandemic, our investments have held steady, and we're just about right at the same level. They haven't grown, but golly, they haven't gone down. Our investments are pretty much the same as they were when the pandemic hit back early part of the year. So that's why there are no auctions. I do hope you'll consider sending me a pair of birds. It can be one pair, it can be two per pair, it can be a group of young ones. You just send them to Foy's, and what happens is we auction them off on this show, as most of you know. And if your birds go for $100 or more, your name is listed in the National Pigeon Association Quarterly Magazine um, twice a year forever. So you'll always be recognized as a person who cared. That was an ant on my. No, that was that, wasn't it? Something was bothering me. It was this string hanging down. Where was I? Oh, you'll be listed in the NPA Quarterly Magazine forever as a patron of the hobby and doing what you can to help. If you'd like to send in a $5 donation, $10 donation, make it out to the Legacy Fund Trust, LFT. Send it to me at Foy's in any amount. If you want to send birds, send them to Foy's, and you'll get a appreciation card from me, and if you reach $100, as I said before, you get listed, but you also get a nice certificate that you can hang on the wall. And there are different levels. At 500, you get a frame certificate in a specific color. Um, but if you have any questions, you can give Foy's a call. They'll give you my home phone number, and you can call me. So, certainly what we want you to do is to send in questions. The show is a lot harder to do without my partner, and I depend a lot on questions that you might want to send in. It can be any question at all in regards to Foy's, the company, in regard to pigeons, whether it's a health issue, a breeding issue, doesn't really matter what it is. If you've got a question that's been bothering you or happening to you right now, now is the time to get that question answered. So, one of the things I wanted to mention, this is not necessarily applied nationwide, but generally speaking, especially in the upper states, more northerly states, but it applies just as well pretty much all over the United States and Canada. And that's pretty simple. Breeding season is pretty much over. For some people, breeding season lasts 6 months, 7 months. For some people, they breed year round, especially in their warmer climates. And my hint to you is try to reduce the number of clutches or number of young raised by a particular pair. Uh, the ideal set of circumstances would be no more than 3 rounds. That's three, three breeding periods, 2 eggs in each nest. Hopefully each one hatch out. So one pair is going to raise 6 young ones for you. The reason I tell you that, I get calls by the dozens this time of the year because some people have been breeding since March or February or even earlier. They're into their 4th and 5th and 6th round. And what you're going to do is you're going to create some real health issues for your birds if you continue to breed them. It weakens their immune system. And with a weakened immune system, what happens is if there's disease around, you've opened the door for the pigeons to attract that disease because they have a weak immune system. Things are flying by my eye. We're doing the show out in our warehouse with a big garage door wide open. So if I go this way, it's just a mosquito who's flying by me. So in talking about that, try to keep it to 3 rounds, and then do your very best to segregate the birds. If you can't segregate them, all you really have to do is to replace the eggs when they're hatched and put wood eggs in place of them. The birds, wood or plastic, of course, the birds will not know the difference. They'll set on those eggs until the normal hatching period, around 18 or 19 days. Then they'll leave them. When they leave them, you take the wooden eggs away. And if they lay again, put the wooden eggs there again. And what you've done is reduced all the stress on those pigeons. The whole process with the male chasing the female, the mating process, the producing of the egg, the trying to feed those young. It's a lot of stress on a bird, and do your very best to reduce the number of times that you try to breed your birds. We do have a question. Joe, I thank you. How do I get feather mites gone? That's a pretty easy one. We sell a product, and it's in the catalog. Can't remember the name, but I'll think of it in a moment. I know. It's what I was going to suggest is that you just go to a gas station that sells fuel oil, not gasoline, but fuel oil, or you can probably find it anywhere. Uh, and what you do is with this kerosene, just plain kerosene, not gasoline, what you're going to do is rub a little bit of kerosene on that spot that's bare. The feather mite live, it's also called a depluming mite, if that's what Joe is asking me about. The depluming mite lives underneath the skin, so most medications don't work on it, but the kerosene sinks into the skin and kills the mite. Now, if it's a feather mite or a feather flea, um, what you can also do is there's a product, and I swear by the product, called Permectin 2. And what that is if you put it goes in the water, and I use it. You put about 2 gallons of warm water in a bucket. Then you add into the bucket, you add some permectin. The directions are on our site in the catalog. You stir it up, and it looks like milk. And I tell you, you should wear gloves. I don't, but you should. You dip the bird in that solution of permectin and warm water. While the bird's under the water, you spread its wings, then you spread its tail. Of course, you don't want to dunk the bird past the top of its neck. You're going to keep the head above the milky water. And what I do is open the tail, open the wings, and then while I've got them in the water, I use my thumb and I make sure some of it is on the chest and some of it is on the top of the head, where you'll have bugs there also. And the kerosene itself, um, my daughter is, well, Gina is sending me an email, but I don't understand it. So, Gina, your kerosene is for red mite. I'm sorry, Gina, you are incorrect, but thank you for thinking about that, because the kerosene we're not talking about anything other than the depluming mite. There's a bare spot on the skin, and it's not the red mite. It's a depluming mite. You rub it on, sinks into the skin, and will kill that. Well, thanks. Gina's watching. That's a good thing. Well, by the way, this is water and nothing else. Scott, hey Scott, thank you very much. Gina, thank you. And Joe, thank you. We're getting some questions or comments, and that's what's going to help me. It doesn't seem like it, but doing a show like this with nobody sitting next to you is tiring. Maybe it's my age. I'm really not sure. So, but you sending questions in to us, we really do appreciate it. Scott is asking, I have had several baby birds stop eating, going light. Going light is losing weight, and they're dying. What is caused by this, and can I prevent this? Um, Not enough information, Scott. I wish you could give me more information. The facts that they're stop eating and losing weight are certainly symptoms. Going light is not a disease; it's a symptom. What color are the droppings? Are they dying real quick, or are they lingering and going light? Um, are the parents still feeding them? I'm assuming they are. Um, but the color of the droppings will tell me a lot. It could be something as simple as coccidiosis, could be worms, but I don't know. I don't have enough information. If you want, you can call me at home and we can discuss it some more, because I have a whole list of questions I might want to ask you. If you have anything at all at home, you might want to tell me what medicines you have. Um, and if you have tried any medicines, as I've told you folks that are listening now and watch our show on a regular basis, every question asked almost always creates my question to you. You answer that question, and then we go on to something else that it could possibly be. So if you want, give me a call at my home. I won't be home until about 4:30, 5 o'clock. My home phone number is 724. I got to remember now, 359-5355. That's 724-359-5355. Travis is sending in a question. He has a hen that is egg bound. It would be unusual if it was a cock, wouldn't it? He's got a hen that's egg bound. I don't think males would have eggs inside. No, nothing. Don't mind them. Smart. You know what, once in a while. But Travis, I'm not making fun of you. Egg bound is a difficult one. Number one question I ask is, why do you think it's egg bound? can you actually see the egg trying to come out, or can you feel the egg? And if you're trying to feel the egg, be very careful. If the egg breaks inside of the bird, in almost all cases, the bird is going to die. If it's truly egg bound, what you might want to try is a little bit of oil. It can be vegetable oil. It can be any type of um, oil to make it very, very slippery. And you might be able to, she might be able to pass that egg that way because she's pushing, trying to get the egg out. So by adding a little bit of oil or lubricant, you might be able to get that bird to push the egg out. Or you can gently, very, very gently, be careful you don't want to break the egg. But I guess number one is why do you think it's egg bound? And she's asking, Travis is asking, why is it happening and how do you prevent it? All right. Let's see, Travis is sending in a second comment. Lost the head. Yes, the egg was trying to come out. Um, that's almost always one of two things. Physical, I guess, Travis, I'm asking, has this hen laid before successfully, or was this her first time? If it's her first time, it could be just like human beings. When a woman gives birth, many times the very first time is the toughest time, and after that, I don't know, but I'm told it becomes a little bit easier as it goes. Um, it also could be dietary. Is it dietary? Okay, dietary. That's Veronica. I didn't introduce her. One of these days, I ought to put her right. Well, there's no chair. I can't put her here. She runs the show for us. But I'm not sure what you're feeding. Um, Heck, the birds could be fat. It's hard to believe, but fat pigeons will have a little bit of a problem too. So if they're really pudgy, I'm not sure what you're feeding or if that's the case. So there's no one answer to it, and it's very unusual for one bird to do it continuously. So Travis, my suggestion is there's not much you can do now. Let the hen recover. You might want to just segregate her for a week or two, and then put her back with her mate. Travis sent in that she's 8 years old, which is getting up there for a breeding hen. Usually, you start to see some deterioration right around 6 years of age. So 8 years, the 8 years old, the age could have something to do with it also. And if it's her very first time of doing it, if she does it again, I would think it might be time to stop breeding from her. Thanks, Travis. I hope I've answered your question, and certainly can ask any question you want. Send another question in if you're watching. And I'm looking at the screen, and I know I'm not supposed to do that. I'm supposed to look at the camera, but I have a habit of reading the question. That's another place where I miss Gina, because Gina is a better reader than I am. For whatever reason, I'm full of baloney, but I can't read quickly. While we're waiting for another question, I thought I might mention I had. It's interesting. Within a week, I had 2 calls from 2 different people with almost exactly the same issue, and I sent the question that I had because I wasn't sure, and I sent it to Dr. Bosa in South Africa, and he did respond to me. In both cases, one person that sent the question in had 3 different breeds, and all 3 breeds have stopped breeding completely. No more eggs. They go through the whole process, but no eggs are coming. And they both wanted to know what it could possibly be. And Dr. Bosa said it was a dietary problem. And in talking about it, he said that what you should do is add something called Fertical. I'm not sure whether we have Fertical back. We were out of Fertical, but it might be in because we just did get a shipment. So you're going to, twice a week, you're going to use Fertical. It's a powder. And then twice a week, you're going to use something called multi-breed. And by switching back and forth with those, he said that it should solve the problem. But Fertical is a calcium-based product. Multibreed is multivitamins. He had one other suggestion, and I talked to one of the people who sent in the question. I called him and asked, and Dr. Bosa mentioned the importance of vitamin D3, which is from the sunlight. Now, the product we mentioned does have vitamin D in it, but if your birds don't get sun, they're going to have issues long term. It's going to pop up eventually. So you have to do everything you can to let those birds in direct sunlight, whether it's an aviary, whether it's windows or screened in area, they need the sun. The one I called did admit that the loft that she had was on the dark side, and that she was going to do something about getting some sun. The sun is just so important. We don't think of it and we take it for granted. When I built my lofts, I made sure that the opening where air would come through and the sun could come through faced the sun at the early morning sun, so that would have been facing east. So if you have an issue, or if you don't have an issue, but the loft is dark or they don't get much sun, that's something to strongly consider. Okay, I think I have some other notes here. If I do, would I do them? Okay. Hey, I wanted to read this to you in a moment, and we have a question. But I want to read this to you and understand I'm not a veterinarian, but this is somebody, another pigeon fancier sent me this as a suggestion. But let's take the question, and the gentleman's name that sent this in is Mike Sadler. All right, this person did not give their name, but the question is, one of my pigeons has a bump on the eye. What could it be? Once again, that's a common problem this time of the year. I get 2 or 3 calls on that every week. In almost all cases, it's something called pigeon pox. They'll get a little, now it's not in the eye, it's on the skin around the eye, and it's caused by a mosquito bite. So in the summertime, you're naturally going to have more mosquitoes, especially if you have standing water somewhere on your property. But the mosquito bites the skin. Sometimes it bites the bare skin on the feet. Anywhere that on the beak, sometimes I've seen it there too. Anywhere that there's bare skin and a mosquito bites it, you could get pigeon pox, and it is transferable from bird to bird. So if you have one with it and they happen to be in a fight, in an argument, drinking the same water, which they probably will, you could pass it on to other birds. Pigeon pox is not a killer. It's a pain in the butt, but it's not a killer. But it does make the bird sick. Pigeon pox is a virus. And as you know, there is no treatment for the virus. What's going to happen is that bump is going to get a little bit bigger and it's going to look ugly as hell. It's going to look like a sore. And then eventually it will scab over, and don't take the scab off. And then over time, it lasts 4 to 6 weeks. Then your pigeon pox will eventually go away by itself. The skin dries up, the scab falls off. Doesn't kill the bird, but it is certainly something that bothers the bird. They'll be trying to wipe their eyes. So pigeon pox is common this time of the year. There's nothing that you can do for it. But if you want to try to make it reduce the time that it is visible, we sell a product called Pigeon Pox. And Pigeon Pox was created by we all called him the pigeon doctor, Muir Nagel, and he created it, his product. So we do have it. It's a little tiny vial, and all you have to do is, with a Q-tip, rub a little bit on the bump, and it'll make it dry up and go away a little bit quicker. Well, I'm getting tired. How come I'm doing all the talking? I was hoping for some help, but maybe Gina would send in some questions. But she's probably upset with me because I ignored her second email to me. So. Vicky, how are you, Vicky? Vicky is a regular watcher, a viewer of our show, as I guess is a better question. Hi, Jerry. How hot is it? How hot is it? And is it too hot for a loft in the summertime? No. How hot is too hot? You can't control that. Your pigeons can survive just about anything. I've had 100 degrees in my loft. Well, I've had 100 degrees outside, which means the loft is even hotter inside. And Vicki, I thank you for the question. One of the things when a bird does get hot, maybe you're not aware, a pigeon cannot sweat. The only way to release heat from the bird's body, uh, we sweat and it comes out of us. What a pigeon does is it opens its mouth and breathes out. So you'll see them panting. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're sick. It means that they're very, very hot. So anything that you can do to get more airflow, screen the air coming through the screen. I have storm doors on my loft. I open up the storm doors, or I at least open it up so half the window is screened, so more air is coming in. Anything that you can do. Some people put in fans. You can buy these fans at the Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that. Something like, I'm thinking 18 inches, and you can put that in the loft too, and it will change the air in it and will help cool it down. So I do thank you very much for the question, Vicki. And as always, she's a friend of the show. We really appreciate her sending in comments. And Andrew and Joe are coming with questions. And once again, thanks a lot. You're making the show so much easier for me to do. So Anthony is asking, one drop, one time will work on chickens. Well, thank you. We have a product called One Drop, One Time. Once again, a product by Dr. Pigeon. And it's a little brown vial. And what you do is you put a drop right into the bird's eye if it has a cold, one-eye cold. Many, many times the product will work. And Anthony is saying it works on chickens also. Now, it's not 100% foolproof. It's not a guarantee every time you use it, it's going to work. But we do get a lot of compliments, and a lot of people buy it and swear by it. But sometimes the one-eyed cold is not necessarily a one-eyed cold. Could be some sort of other infection that might require a different a product. One of the things I tell people a lot of times is something as simple as Neosporin that you can get anywhere might be your first choice. Just try that. It might help. But if it doesn't, then of course you can go to Dr. Pigeon's one-eye cold treatment. Thanks, Anthony. But he's called Tony, and his last name's begins with T, so Tony T. All right, Joe. Veronica, how would you pronounce that? Nealamine? Nealamine? Element. All right, Joe, thank you. Someone told me garlic in the water will help with bugs. I have long, big, I'm not sure what Joe is saying, but it appears as though he has something on the feathers that are long. Now, there is a feather louse, and if you look at it, it's longer than it is wide. And it's brown, and you'll see it on the chest a lot of times. You open up the wings and look underneath the wings, and you'll see the lice there. Once again, in fact, I'm doing it right now. This is the time of the year where the bugs manifest themselves much more so than in the winter time. So what I do is I give my birds a bath, and when you do that, you use something called bath salts. It's not really a salt, but it's made to put in the bath water. It's safe if a bird drinks it, not a problem at all. And what it does is kills those lice. For even more effective treatment, if you don't have too many birds, we talked about it earlier in the show, what you can do is dip the bird in a solution of permectin and permectin tube and the drinking water. That's FedEx there. He likes to make himself known, so he rolls that door up and makes all kinds of noise, and he's smiling at us. What's up, Mike?
How are you?
All right, thank you. All right, someone told me garlic in the water will help with the bugs. I do not believe that because garlic is in the drinking water. what garlic will do, it's a natural antibiotic, but also it will help this way. When you drink garlic, when the birds drink garlic, it's in their bloodstream, and they put off an odor of the garlic, and the birds, I'm sorry, the bugs, in many cases don't like it and be less likely to bite the pigeon if it's a blood-sucking fly. So it may help some, but what I'm suggesting would work a lot more effective, and that's dipping the birds in permethrin 2. We sell it. Directions are on it. It just goes into the into a bucket, and we talked about earlier. You dip the bird down up to its neck. You open the wings so that they get wet. You spread the tail so it gets wet. That's while it's under the water up to its neck. And when it comes out, you would see almost like a dead rat. It's so wet because I think what happens is by adding permethrin to the drinking water, the feathers become more absorbent. One thing I didn't mention when we first talked about it was the fact that you do not want to do it in hot weather. The weather today, yesterday, today, next tomorrow, somewhere around 90 here. I won't ship pigeons when it's this hot. In fact, I didn't ship pigeons last week. But also, you don't want to dip them in permethrin when the temperatures are above 80, I would say. Be careful of that. And so don't dip your birds when the weather is very, very hot. I think it's because the pores are open and it's sucked in and they might get too much. So beware of that. To be honest, must have been 10 or 12 years ago. Well, I did it on a very hot day, just plain not thinking. I knew better, but I did it. And I ended up killing a number of birds. So permethrin's a great product, but you've got to be careful. You've got to read the directions on the bottle, because I get so many people who call me and they've got a medicine and they ask me how to use it, but I'm sometimes I'm not sure why they ask me, and I will tell them, I said, do you have a computer? Get on the website, the directions are there. Do you have the product in your hand? Yes. Well, the directions are on the bottle. In so many cases, in the catalog, on the website, the directions are there. Follow the directions. It's so important. Just like a human, when a doctor gives you medicine, it would be silly to overdose, or it would be silly to take less. Saying 2 tablets a day, you take 1, don't expect the result. So that's enough about that. Garlic, by the way, is a product that a lot of people use. In fact, I think it's mentioned in this letter that I referred to earlier. I'm going to do my best to read this to you. As I say, I'm not the best reader in the world. All right, Mike Sadler sent this to me. Birds have little or no desire to fly or move around, will blow up with water. I've got that call many times. Their chest are drinking a lot of water and their crop is full. Droppings are watery. Birds lose weight. They have a hard time breathing. Most of the time, the outcome is death in whether it's an old bird or a young bird, but especially young birds. He has a simple solution, and it's a natural solution that seems to have a great effect on it. And we all know that natural products do work on many occasions. In this particular case, all of these are not antibiotics, but natural products. You're going to need a raw yellow onion. You put that onion in a blender and blend it down as much as you can. And then what you're going to do is combine the onion with Ropa B, that's a product that we sell, Ropa B, and Primalac. Primalac is a product we don't sell, but other companies, or you can go online, just type in Primalac, Primalac, and the company that makes it will give you directions as to where to get it. So you're going to add raw yellow onion juice, and you're going to add Ropa B and Primalac in 1 gallon of water. Follow the directions that are on the Primalac and the Ropa B in a gallon of water for 5 days. Then you're going to use it twice a week, and the birds seem to be able to get through a virus much easier. He mentioned you can cut the onion up and then put it in the blender, but you want to get it blended as fine as you possibly can. It seems to be working for other people that he suggested it, and it helps a lot of people that do have virus problems. So that's basically what he's saying. His birds wouldn't fly. He used it, and it seemed to help a lot. Let's see. That's pretty much it. Onion, Ropa B, and Primalac. So it's something you may want to try. If you want a copy of it, just email Foy's and I'll get a copy to you. We'll mail a copy to you. So thanks to Mike, and because there's always people sending me suggestions, and I really do appreciate it. If you've got a question, our screen is blank, so I need some questions. I hope you do. We got another 20 minutes or so to fill, so the questions you're asking me help me a heck of a lot. And I'm going to go to my tip book too. Here it is right here. All right. Some of my pigeons are sick. When I open the mouth, they have clear, stringy stuff. What might that be? If you have our catalog, and I don't have one with me, in the back of the catalog, there's a colored picture of this particular disease. You'll see the bird with its beak open, and I do have a catalog. I do have a catalog. Its beak open, and there's a string of mucus. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. I can't see the screen, so it's this one right here. Can they see that? Okay. You can see the bird's mouth is open and the string running from the top to the bottom. Disease itself is mycoplasmosis. It's in my catalog. You might want to look it up, what mycoplasmosis is, but it is a respiratory issue. Something I don't say enough because we sell so many different antibiotics. Whenever you use an antibiotic, if it's a 5-day, 7-day, 10-day usage, what you want to do is add bromhexine, BROMHEXINE is in our catalog, bromhexine, for 4 days, combining both the drug you're using, whether it's amoxicillin, whether it's Tylenol, anything that you're using. The first 4 days, you use the medicine and you use the bromhexine as directed. So if it's for instance, if it's a 5-day treatment, first 4 days or the 2 combined products, bromhexine should be in everybody's loft, because anytime you use a medicine, what bromhexine does is it makes the product stronger by giving a boost to the immune system. So 7-day would be 4 days with the combined, then 3 days with just the drug you're using, 7 days, 10 days. I think you all can figure that out. So when you have something like that, where it's stringy in the mouth itself, it's mycoplasmosis. It is treatable. It is an upper respiratory product, and follow those directions. And once again, if you didn't have the time to write them down, you can always give Foy's a call. And if they can't answer your questions, they'll certainly contact me or give you my home phone number. Now, this is a book that we use, and it's something I write and I add things on as I learn them, because seems like every day I'm learning something new, so I'm adding to this book fairly regularly. In fact, we had a question about this. I was going to mention the blooming mite, but I won't repeat it. But it's been around forever. It's nothing new. So here are some tips. Man wanted to add weight to his pigeons. They're not thick, but he would like them to be a little heavier. They just didn't seem to weigh the right amount. So a fellow by the name of Jim Lucido suggested this: raw peanuts. Now, unsalted. You can buy raw peanuts in the store. I'm sure you can, unsalted. And if you feed them to your pigeons, they will put weight on in a hurry. It's something I've done myself, and I know it works. What will help and what will work even better is, and you can buy them in just about any feed store, and that's the peanut hearts. They're little tiny things. The pigeons love them, and they will put birds on. Within a week, you'll see a big difference in the weight of your pigeons. They'll become more plumpy. So the add it to the regular grain, but don't expect the birds to do anything but eat those peanuts first. So once they get used to them, they look for them. They'll leave everything out. They won't eat anything else except the peanuts, and then they'll eat the rest of the grain that you're feeding them. But don't overdo it. A handful, it's hard to say because I don't know how many birds you have, but add a small amount of peanuts to your feed every day. Even if you're feeding pellets, you can add some parts to the pellets too, and your birds will gain weight. Okay, this is one maybe you've never heard of it, but I know it works. Let's say you've got 2 eggs in the nest, and you notice that one of the eggs has a small crack or a small hole in it. What do? Well, if you catch it early enough, that's why it's so important. Try and handle the eggs every day and look at them. So what you do, just put a dab of super glue right over the little crack or the hole, cover the whole area. It will seal the area again, hopefully before bacteria enters that crack, because that's what's going to happen. So you can save a egg and produce a good young one by using super glue. The other thing on that particular topic, when you have eggs, you pick them up out of the nest and they're foul, there's droppings on them that have dried off. Do your best to wash the egg under warm water, not hot water, warm water. Gently rub it until the droppings come off, then dry it with a towel and put it in. Don't put it in back in the nest. Don't sink it into a bowl of water and rub it under the water. You're going to drown what's inside because the water can come through. So what you want to do is when you want to clean it, you wet the egg, wipe it. I put it under a slow, very, very slow from my faucet and wipe it off, dry it, put it back into the nest. Because the feces or droppings on the egg, if it's long enough, going to work through the egg itself and could make the baby sick when it hatches. All right, another one. This is good. A lot of people would like to make their own pigeon feed, but they don't know where to start because a lot of you folks live in areas where pigeon feed is not accessible. None of the feed stores sell it. So here's a way, and you want to write this down. Here's a way that you can make your own pigeon feed, which is sufficient, whether it's breeding season, winter, doesn't really matter. You can feed this kind of a feed year round. So here's what you do to mix the feed. If you've got a cement mixer, it's a great way to do it if you want to make a whole bunch. But if not, just put it into something to shake it all up and mix it up. So let's just say you're going to make your own feed. 20% of what you want to make, let's say you're going to make 50 pounds. So 20% of that mixture should be peas. Now, nutritionally, legumes is what they're called. When you use peas, it doesn't matter which one. There's white peas, Austrian peas, yellow peas. There's at least 4 or 5 different peas. 20% of what you're going to make. So 20% of a 50-pound bag is 10 pounds of the peas. Corn, 30%. Once again, there's big yellow corn, regular yellow corn, and there's popcorn, and there's white corn. Doesn't matter. Nutritionally, corns are pretty much nutritionally all the same. So 30% of a 50-pound bag is 15 pounds. Then you want to buy a Milo. Most stores sell it. You can buy Kefir, K-A-F-I-R, or Milo, M-I-L-O. Nutritionally, they're the same. So Kefir or Milo is once again 20%, 30%, I'm sorry. So now we're 30, 60, 80. Leaves us 20% left. that last 20% you want to use is wheat. Pigeons don't like wheat, but it's good for them. And if they won't eat it, I've said this so many times, what you want to do if they don't eat it, you're feeding too much. You want them to eat everything in front of them within 20 minutes to a half an hour. You go back in the loft and there's still wheat or peas, depending on the time of the year, in the feeder. I will pull the feeder out, and tomorrow I will put that same amount of peas or the same feeder right back in there, and they're going to be so hungry they're going to eat the peas first. You gotta, they're like kids. If you give them a choice, they're not necessarily going to eat what's good for them. They're going to eat what's good to them. So when you do that, that's what you have to make them eat it. So to repeat, peas is 20% of a 50-pound bag. Corn is 30%. Milo or Kaffir is 30%. Wheat is 20%. What I would suggest you do, that's a feed for pretty much year round. But if you're in a cold climate up north, Pennsylvania's cold climate, you may want to reduce some of the Kaffir or some of the wheat and add a little bit more corn. Some people don't believe in using corn at all. Why, I don't know. But corn builds body fat. Body fat helps protect the bird from the cold. So in a really cold weather, add a little bit more corn and take something away, or you just add more corn and what they don't eat, force them to eat the next day. Got any questions about feed? We invite you to give us a call, or I shouldn't say, just send us a question. This is one that, whenever I read this, and I wrote these, this one was written March 23rd of 2015. I forgot. Let's say you're cleaning your loft. And part of cleaning the loft is cleaning the floor. So you're going to scrape your floor down to bare wood or whatever's underneath the droppings. You're going to scrape it all. And then when they've done a thorough cleaning in their loft, what they do is they spray a disinfectant, which is a good idea. But be careful of spraying the disinfectant too much on the floor or too much on the perches, because when you do that, when a breeding pair walks on a floor that has a lot of disinfectant on it, or sitting on a perch, the disinfectant will be carried by the breeding parents, male, female, to the egg, sitting on the egg. The disinfectant now will be transferred from the bird's feet to the egg, and once again, you're going to have health issues. We might think it's a disease because your bird dying in the shell. It may not be that. It may be, and you think back, if this happens to you, did I spray my loft with disinfectant on the floor and on the perches? A lot of it soaked it. If you do that, you're just asking for trouble. Another tip. People ask me, how old are babies before they are old enough to breed and have a mate and lay eggs? The rule of thumb is 6 months. Now, six months could be 4 months, it could be 8 months before. It's an individual bird thing. They mature at different, just like people. We all mature at different ages like me. You'd never know. I was 48, I'm sorry, I'm 48 now. But I don't, I'm sure I don't look that old. But anyway, I'm not sure where that came from. But anyways, don't overdo it with a disinfectant. Did you know that when, you probably all know this, but who knows, maybe one or two people that don't. The pigeons, when they lay eggs, the male bird will lay on the egg. He's the lazy one. He's going to lay on the egg from about 10 o'clock in the morning till about 4 o'clock late in the afternoon. Variably, it could be 3:30, it could be 4:30, whatever. Then the female will set the eggs. She does all the work. She sets on the egg from about 4 to 5 in the evening until the next morning when the male takes over. So she's setting on those eggs for a long period of time, which leads me to another thing I might mention, because I get calls on this. They'll say, and I can't believe I'm looking at the poop on the floor and there's just humongous mounds of it. Why? Well, it's almost always the female that's doing it. Sometimes it's the male, but almost always the female. Because remember what I just said. The hen lays on the eggs, let's say 5 o'clock in the evening, and she's going to lay on those eggs until 10 o'clock the next morning. She doesn't leave the nest. She sits on those eggs or those young for all of those hours, and she has not left the nest, which means all the poop that's in her, when she hits the floor and the male takes over, it's going to come out, shoo, a big mound of it. So you're going to see that in breeding season. It's not any indication of a problem. It's a natural process. The poor thing hasn't gone to the bathroom most of the day. When she goes. Let me tell you that. Okay, some other tips we want to talk about. Now I'm back into, let's see, these I wrote back in December of 14. Well, let me find one here. Canker and pox. If you're treating for canker, canker is between canker and coccidiosis and worms, one of the three most common things you're going to find with pigeons. Canker isn't always in the throat, but I would venture to say almost always. And it's deep down in the throat. Now, it's not up near the lips or the top and lower beak, it's down in the throat. So if you're going to treat for canker, make sure that's what you're looking at. The reason I emphasize that is a disease called sinusitis, and you get the word sinus out of that. There's something called, what's the word, Veronica? Gina was here. Gina's probably watching, and she'll tell me. Oh, it's a respiratory issue, and it's a drainage of the nasal passages. Mucus is coming down and collects, and it turns brown on the top of the mouth and bottom of the mouth. Sometimes you can see it on the sides of the mouth, and you can remove it with a Q-tip or anything. It comes right out. But then tomorrow, it's there again because it's like a runny nose. You wipe your nose, but it doesn't mean it's going to stop running. It's going to continue to run. So be careful when you're treating that you do have canker and not sinusitis. If you try to remove canker, it's going to be bloody. The tentacles go beneath the skin. When you try to pull that canker out, it's going to cause it to bleed. Sinusitis is much talking about it, but it's crude, I suppose. But if you blow your nose, the snot comes out, but you haven't done anything but clearing the nose for a little bit of time, because then it's going to build up again. So sinusitis is dried snot. Pigeon canker is trichomoniasis, or what we call this cheesy matter, canker. All right. What else do I want to? We've already talked about pigeon pox. Get this question. Who wrote this? The heck of a good book. Who wrote this, Veronica? You. Me? Oh, okay. I should read this more often. A lot of times you'll see your pigeons training themselves. They're pecking the feathers and they're running the feathers through their mouth. And a lot of people think it's a health issue. They're scratching, or they got a problem with it. They're trying to scratch themselves. Training is 100% normal. It's what pigeons do. It's one of the ways that they clean their feathers. But what a lot of people aren't aware, and this reminded me, as they're preening and running a feather through their mouth, it's creating oil. It makes a much more subtle, S-U-B-T-L-E, I think so. Anyway, the feather is now much more pliable. It's not all dry like you'll see when a bird is molting. So when you see a bird preening, it's a good sign. It's a natural sign. Mother Nature is taking care of their feather. So that's another thing. Let me see here. Anybody know what a pigeon fly is? Let me see. This is a black and white. Oh, that's a pigeon fly. What a pigeon fly is a fly on a pigeon. Well, at least you're smiling, Veronica. But it's not like a mosquito or a bug that we normally see, or a louse. A fly, it looks like a house fly, only bigger. And it hides underneath the feathers, and it bites. It's a bloodsucker and creates problems, irritation for your bird, but it also transmits disease. It's a bloodsucker, so it's going to find bare skin on the pigeon. It's going to bite it. So the bite gets if let's say it bites this bird and the bird has a disease. Then it goes to the next bird and it bites that bird. It's transmitted the disease. So the way you find a housefly, a pigeon fly, is if you pick your bird up and you look at its feathers underneath, you spread the feathers, and all of a sudden you're going to see something. Well, when I do that quick, it's just not good to do quick stuff on this, is it? It was okay. So anyway, the bird is going to try to hide, and you've got to get it. So go back to what I talked about twice now. Permectin, a bird dipped with permectin will take care of that problem as directed. So this one was written in 2014. You've heard me say this before. Where are the questions, by the way? UPS driver's driving up. Maybe he'll ask me a question. If you don't have a question, maybe he'll ask. What are you doing? Anyway, perches. It's a simple thing. A lot of people never give it much thought. They just put perches everywhere. What you should always try to do is put all of your perches on the same wall, or if you have to, on two walls. The reason for that, it makes cleaning your loft so much easier. And by controlling where all the droppings, they go straight down. Now, I like the perches that are removable if possible. We sell a little perch. We sell two different perches that come with a clip-on. It's a clip-on perch. And the reason I do that, sometimes I might have 50 birds in a section, and then I sell a bunch and there's only 20 birds in a section for a while. I can remove the perches without a tool. I just pull them up. They're removable. I'll put them away, and then if I have a lot more pigeons back in that same section, then I can put perches on without a tool. You just clip them back on. So that kind of a perch is nice. It helps you control the droppings. If you've got 50 perches, you're going to be cleaning 50 perches. So if you take 30 out, it just cuts down on your work. Amen. Well, here's one. Can you get by? Don't you knock that screen over. We created the problem. I apologize. The man's trying to get behind our screen, and it's kind of hard with a full pallet. They pick up the orders right around this time of the day. All right, did you know there are just a few things that make a pigeon vomit, throw up? The first one is if you, in fact, decide that, don't mind me, I lost my train of thought. Oh, if you wormed your pigeons, there's a disease, or I shouldn't say disease, there's a pigeon a treatment called levamisole. We sell it, but if you give it to them, they don't always, but there may be a tendency to throw up. Levamisole is strong. Don't worry about it. It's not unusual. It's going to happen. But if you see a bird throwing up, it doesn't necessarily mean it's sick. But think back. If you recently wormed them, that could be your problem. Vomiting also is a symptom of the adeno, A-D-E-N-O. I talked to her, that she called it adeno, but A-D-E-N-O is a virus, fairly common, and it sometimes makes the birds throw up their feed. They'll eat, and then sometimes if you have a flat perch, you'll see the grains on the perch itself. So what you want to do is give some thought, do I have adenovirus? No real way of knowing, other than if you can read about adenovirus in our catalog. It'll list some of the symptoms, or every state in the country has a lab that will test for poultry diseases. Well, they'll also test for viruses, and it's very inexpensive if you stay within the state you're in. And you can send in a bird to them, a dead bird. They'll tell you how to do it. And I'm going to have to get rid of that pallet jack. Sounds like a train coming through. Okay. I'm sorry I got distracted again. But anyway, the adenovirus is not treatable. Send a bird into a lab. They'll tell you how to do it. And if you've got adenovirus, that's why the birds were vomiting. Okay. Go through my book a little bit more here. Oh my goodness, it's after 4 o'clock already. Well, I can close my book. Once again, I'm sorry we had no auction. Hopefully I'll get some more birds in shortly. I've sent emails to a lot of folks asking for contributions of birds. If you want to send in one pair, a hen and a cock, that would be great. We'll mention your name on our show. If it's $100 or more, what we'll do is send you a certificate. Veronica will do that. And then we'll send your name in to the National Pigeon Association. Help us out. It's just very, very important that we raise these funds so that if somebody in need that's a pigeon person, we can help them. But it takes a lot of money invested to raise any amount of funds, because even if we're lucky enough to get 4% interest or earned income over a period of time, if we have $100,000, 4% of that is $4,000 per year. So if somebody has a need, $4,000 will go quickly. So we need to get that up over $100,000, and we'll raise more money doing it that way. Once again, if you need me, call Foy's. They'll tell you how to get a hold of me. If you have a question that I haven't answered, email it to Foy's. They'll forward it to me. I do thank you very much for tuning in. It did go fairly quick. Thanks again. And hopefully in the next 2 weeks, Gina will be with us. Take care.